Hello and welcome to season 4 of Own Your Divine Light Show. I am Janet Miller, and this show is Accelerate Ascension during times of chaos and pandemic. And I said Janet Miller, but I am really introducing myself as Isla Serona Miller now, which is my magical name that I'm stepping into. So I keep trying it on. And, I know so many people who've got a magical name have had it over the years, but they've still trying it on. So when you're, stepping into that. And we've been all going through so much, and it's just feeling like things are starting to lift. And yet, there's so much on the horizon that's unknown. And we're meant to create a new way of being. And today our guest has stepped into her empowerment and her feminine guidance to guide us to our best lives and our best way to express our femininity, our divine feminine. So welcome, Megumi. So happy to have you here. And let me tell you a little more about her. Megumi is a mystical mentor, an embodied movement expert, a light worker, a soul activator for women seeking to discover the secret gems of radiance, empowerment, and confidence that are buried deep within. And she invites women to become the intuitively led leaders of their own lives. And that's so powerful, tapping into their embodiment, pleasure, purpose, and permission to live freely and authentically expressed. And she supports her clients in conquering the darkness of their past to uncover the deepest truth and to live as the radiant, prosperous women they are meant to be. And give me, know that living your most authentic life requires you to reinvent and play in the face of your mystical and bring out those biggest stubborn blocks. And this is so true. She uses her extensive mystical tool belt to support her clients in breaking through their traumas and their lack of clarity through feminine embodied movement practices, human design, intuitive readings, and emotional release work. It's her greatest passion and purpose in life to help all women she encounters to feel empowered, loved, and seen for the true embodiment of their feminine selves. So, Megumi, it's so wonderful to have you here.
Thank you.
I mean, what you have embraced, you've embraced your feminine side so fully, and you've done it so genuinely and in such a new way. And how did you come to embody that so fully? Like how did that all come about for you? What was your big aha moment?
Oh, wow. Well, it started almost a decade ago, really, specifically 9 years ago when I was on the cusp of being 21 because I'm 30 now.
Mm-hmm.
And I was not feeling that great about my body. I didn't like going to the gym, but I honestly didn't have like a way of really being connected to my body. I
Mm-hmm.
hated PE growing up, just, but also just had a lot of my own reflection of I hate my body. I
Mm.
don't like how I look. I don't like how I feel. What am I even doing here? And I really took a moment to just ask myself, like, a serious question. Well, do I really want to be here?
Mm. Mm-hmm.
And when I realized, yes, I do, I started to realize, okay, well, then I need to go on a discovery and finding how to love my body. And then I recognized I don't think I ever really did love my body. So it became a self discovery journey of learning how to love my body. And the craziest thing was the minute I declared it, the most serendipitous thing fell into my lap, and it was a Groupon deal to do a pole dancing class.
Oh, how cool.
Exactly.
So
And
perfect.
I thought, that sounds fun. That sounds sexy. Why not try it? Why not give it a try? Because I did not like going to the gym. I had a gym membership. I went maybe twice in 1 year.
Yeah.
And I remember reaching out on Facebook and I said to a bunch of friends who wants to do this, Groupon deal with me, and nobody bit. And I thought to myself, again, this gets to be my discovery, this gets to be my journey, and it's okay if nobody wants to do it with me.
Yeah.
So I went to a class. I signed up for Sheila Kelly's S Factor, and I instantaneously fell in love. And the thing that I've realized, at least over the last 9 years, is I could have possibly found any pole dancing class. Because pole dancing is like a really big thing on the scene now for the last 5 to 10 years.
Yeah.
But what I got to discover was something deeper than pole dancing.
Mm-hmm.
It was, again, coming back into my feminine. It was the embodied piece that S Factor had taught me. It was learning how to listen to the wisdom that exists inside of my body and knowing that that wisdom has always been there. It's a pilot light. It's always had that ember and that glow. It's the fire that lives within me, and that when I am truly listening and in that seat of reverence for the feminine that exists inside of me, everything opens up. And
Mm.
so, what I discovered within myself was the innate power I've always had. And I also saw that in my community. I saw that in the tribe of women that I took classes with, and how they too were honoring that sacred feminine wisdom that exists inside of them. And it's so fascinating because I've met women of all different age ranges, all different body types,
Mm-hmm.
all different backgrounds and races and nationalities. And we all have that core feminine that lives within us. And it all has this in tune, innate power. And it all ripples and shows up differently in each of us. But when we listen to how it authentically shows up for us, that's where the real magic lies. And so it, as you can imagine, being young and in my 20s, it was very easy to be like, well, I want to try this way on and I want to try this way on. And,
Sure.
it was like trying on different outfits or hats to
Exactly.
feel which one was actually the most genuine for me. So it was a lot of trial and error until I really recognized that, my body has this deep wisdom, this deep, profound ache and yearning for the truth,
Yeah.
for discovering, what really truly exists there. And so that was always my secret intuitive superpower, was
That's
knowing that I hold this well
mm,
of deep, deep desire to know more, to uncover more. It's
yeah.
almost like I'm insatiable to the journey of wisdom, to the journey of self discovery and transformation. And so, even 9 years later, I'm always like, what's the next thing that I want to learn? And that's why I have such an eclectic tool belt of magic
Great.
and ritual and feminine goodies,
Yeah.
because I love to be a learner of life.
I'm the same way. Explorers of the hidden gems of life that we,
Exactly.
like wow, what's around the corner that I'm not aware of. Like came out when I was, I don't know, it was about what, 10 years ago at least, you're saying.
Hmm.
So it was a little almost past it for me. I mean, I had gone through a couple of like surgeries in my knees and stuff. So, and I was a dancer. I loved to dance. I took dancing lessons and tap, ballet, all that kind of thing when I was a kid. And
Hmm.
I always loved to dance. But, and then when I was older, I wanted to do belly dancing. I
Mm.
finally took it up. Finally, I pushed a friend of mine to come with me. But I'll tell you, that's hard work.
Hmm.
It's not a natural thing. And it take like you first you we did a lot of, basic stuff for so long. I didn't stick with it, unfortunately, because she just didn't keep inspiring me. I guess the teacher wasn't the best one for me, but she was the only one around that I could find. So
Yeah.
I did go. It was fun. It was fun because I got to see parts of it, and she could do some great stuff.
Hmm.
But yeah, I love that you did that because it allowed you to become so, relaxed in your body, to love your body and to just feel that intimacy with your own body, which
Hmm.
is what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And that's your in that so the woman's empowerment, that's your key, that's what you're doing. And so how do you see women today? Like, what do you see them doing that they might be missing this, or what's happening with women today? What are we missing, or what are we grabbing onto? What's happening right now that you see?
Yeah. Well, so again, this body of ours, all of our bodies,
Mm-hmm.
we there's a lot of wisdom that lives within the body, because I always believe that, the our bodies hold our soul, our spirit, our light that lives within us,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because when a body isn't moving, what is it, dead? And so when we know, okay, that there's something that's obviously keeping this body alive, it's not just your heart, it's not just the lungs in your air, it's not just your brain, it's this alive spirit.
Yeah.
And so your spirit inside of you is always asking for something.
Mm.
And so, this journey of really loving your body is really loving the home that you live in, right? Like, we all, as you can imagine, in COVID times, have really, I feel like everybody's having a hard time in finding furniture or really like wanting to work on their home because it is the place that they're dwelled in.
Sure.
And yet in our society, we are not taking care of the beautiful home that we live in. So what I tend to see in society is women across all spectrums, right? So there are women that are really great at taking care of their bodies, and they're eating the right foods, and they're listening to their bodies, and they're meditating, and they're being in the flow of their feminine. And then there are some women that make it look like they're in their feminine and that they have it all together, but really deep down and underneath all of that looking feminine, there's this real structured masculine kind of living behind it and a perfectionist attitude. And it's not to say that that's good or bad or right or wrong. It's just the fact that there's still something very unsatisfied in those types of women that are really driven, that are, and it's not to say that's wrong. It's just that they're not finding a way to allow the drive for so far to also be basking in the wonder. Imagine that you took a really long road trip to the Grand Canyon, but the minute you got there, you turned around and you went back home and you didn't enjoy what the actual drive was for to be at the destination.
A good example.
And I see a lot of women that are also in that position.
Mm.
I see a lot of women that hide in their bodies,
Mm.
that are so terrified of taking up space in their bodies for fear of it being taken advantage of, for fear of trauma being resurfaced if they get too seen, if they stick out too much. I see women hiding behind layers and layers of either clothes or like weight
Yes.
because again of fear of being seen or fear of uncovering their greatest truth, whether it's to soothe themselves, whether it's to keep them small,
Mm.
whether it's to hide a great fear that they have. And pretty much what I see on the general spectrum of all of these types of women, again there's so many others, is there's this deep profound sense of I don't really know who I am.
Yeah. Yeah. That is so true. So
And
true.
I think that that comes from a place of, again, feeling the loss of the feminine as an energetic essence in our society. We live so deeply in the masculine that it's really hard to reclaim that feminine energy and allow it to just be because of this dominating masculine essence that lives out there. And again, I really want to be clear on there is a healthy feminine energy, an unhealthy feminine energy, a healthy masculine energy, and an unhealthy masculine energy. And we all have that yin yang, we all have the feminine and the masculine, but it's always a great question to ask ourselves, is it healthy or is it unhealthy?
Mm.
And I think that most people, just people in general, are living more in that unhealthy masculine where they're going, they're not slowing down to really take in the beauty of their surroundings. And I really believe that that's quite the silver lining that we all got from COVID.
Mm.
Um, it allowed us to slow down and to really see what's not working. We
Yeah.
were like a train running off the tracks in the unhealthy masculine and pushing things forward and technology and all of that. Like, we all love the fact that we can have technology. We couldn't even create this without technology. There's healthy aspects, again, of that masculine energy and that driving force and getting us to, again, the destination where we want to go. But are we fully enjoying it? Are we seeing the beauty that is unfolded from it? And so, of course, in this slowing down, we got to connect more through the technology. We got to be in a place of taking time even away from the computer because, again, there's too much to
Oh,
come back and be in that inner reflection for ourselves.
yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think it was such a gift, this situation, even though, I mean, sorry for anyone who lost anyone, but, it's still, it's changed us all to look at our lives so differently. And like the external distractions aren't as strong right now, because I think we've kind of looked inside and said, what are these values I've been having? They aren't the ones I really want. Like you said, people feel like they're missing something. I think that's the part, like you're saying, we're missing going in, we're missing, just being quiet. Being quiet is so hard because you say, well, go, go, go. I'm a go, go, goer all the time myself. And I used to remember, being at home with my mom, going to visit her. She could never sit down. She'd
Mhm.
never sit down and enjoy her company. She was
Mm,
always working, serving, cooking. She wouldn't just sit and chat.
yeah.
And so that was always hard. You go to visit and then you can't even get anyone to sit down and stop moving. So that was the way we grew up. I mean, that's the way I go. That was the energy of the masculine. It's like you've got to be in action. It's all about action. So now the feminine comes in now. This is coming in stronger and stronger. So what do you see as the traits of the divine feminine right now that we need
Yeah.
to bring in?
So to me, the divine feminine is nature herself. It's
Mhm.
just the power of her reverence. She is constantly in movement, but it's that slow change over time. And I just love looking to seasons as a great, great example. So again, we just had the summer solstice, which I love, right?
Mhm.
And we were growing to this peak of the longest day of the year. And literally from this point forward until, we do the time change again in the fall, the days are going to start to get shorter again. And
100%.
so even in these small moments, day by day by day, can you notice how time and how nature is having that impact of like growing or slowing down? And so you can feel that shift if you live in a place where I know you do, right? Where you get the seasons,
Oh,
you
it's
can
wonderful.
really feel that shift and that change. And so the divine feminine is that slow
Mhm.
process of change. And again, we have this connotation in society that slow is bad or not, fast
It's
enough.
true. Yeah.
But the slowness allows you to actually feel
Mhm.
and reap in the beauty that exists around you. And if you are the type of person that loves watching the change of the seasons, whether it's spring flowers into summer or summer into fall leaves, fall's my favorite season.
Yeah.
It's just really feeling into that powerful unraveling and beauty that exists in the divine feminine. So not only does she slow down, but again, she allows you to feel a bunch of things. There's a lot of emotion that comes with the divine feminine. She is as, powerful as a raging lightning storm that comes with thunder.
That's
She's as beautiful and calm as an ocean wave.
yeah.
She's as majestic as a forest of trees, of green. She's as beautiful and as resoundingly determined as a mountaintop,
Mm.
right? And she is as, powerful and fierce as a hurricane that can come in and destroy anything in its path. The
Yeah.
feminine is to be revered.
Oh, I agree because what we've grown up with is men are the strongest, but to tell you the truth, the men are always supported by a woman, and the woman is really the strength for that man. If you look at the Piscean paradigm we grew up in, the masculine, the woman was not allowed to show her strength, so she
Mhm.
would support the man. So if your man was doing good, then you looked good. You look like a strong woman because your husband's doing, because you basically are the support. That's really, you were like the assistant. Where now you're not. Now you're stepping up and you're side by side. Now it's partnerships. Now the younger, partners are all like, really it's been happening for quite a while. When my kids were born, women were just starting to go to work really almost a lot full time, and
Mhm.
daycare was still new, hard to believe.
Right.
It was still new, and I just wasn't into that, so I was home with them until I was able to go work again for part-time always. But I didn't want to leave them because I waited to have them. And that was a joy for me because I waited to have them and then I wanted to be with them when I had them so I could enjoy it. But that's hard work too.
Oh,
People
yeah.
don't realize how hard it is to be home with kids. I mean, they do now with this situation going on. They're seeing, whoa. And I think the men are noticing too because so many men are stepping up and getting into the role of a dad in such a way that they can truly embody their divine masculine as well. So
Mhm.
now, like that divine feminine is so important, I think, to bring out the divine masculine.
Oh, absolutely. Yes. I do believe that we hold both masculine and feminine energies within ourselves. It's just to what degree are we allowing ourselves to feel that balance? And
Hmm.
so, as you were talking about, there's really been this heavy unbalance for a long time that if you're a man, you can only have masculine qualities.
Oh,
And if
yeah.
you're a woman, we want you to be feminine, like on the outside, like we want you to look a certain way, but you better act masculine, right? And here's the thing, like the reason why a lot of us just feel out of whack, out of balance, is because we haven't seen that we carry both energies
Hmm. Hmm.
and that, we may feel out one energy more than the other. And that's great because in a partnership, somebody else can help support, right? That energy that you don't fully always carry in your being. And again, I've seen it in different types of individuals. I've seen more men be in their divine feminine and more women be in their divine masculine. And the relationship still works mainly because there is that connection of both the balance. So I never really look at the energy so much as
Hmm.
per man or woman. However, it is really fascinating that
Hmm.
again, the feminine is rising. She is coming forward and it's like about time that we are listening to her. And there is this the shift, as you said, right? Whether we see it even in parenting, right? Where more father figures are stepping forward and really being in that supportive role, which I think for the divine feminine, there's much more of a supportive role than a leading role that can sometimes happen with the divine masculine. And I think again, it's this dance.
Yeah.
It's this beautiful dance of leading and supporting
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
being at the front or taking a back seat or really seeing the big picture versus the smaller picture. And so with the divine feminine, it's not just about feeling the majestic power that exists in more of this, I don't want to say silent role, but really more of this like standing and holding space role.
Hmm.
There's so much flow and flexibility that also comes from being in the feminine. And the feminine is just able to really see, again, bigger picture what's happening to
Hmm.
be in that flexible role versus the masculine's very focused and in that action. And it's just like on a track that is running straight,
Hmm.
right? And
Yeah.
the divine feminine is really more like if a train is going straight across the plains or whatever, the feminine is really more of that bird's eye view where it can really see, again, big picture, what's up ahead and how do we maybe need to course correct? How can we be in that fluid flexibility of it? And that's kind of my own metaphor of how I see where again, the divine masculine is allowing us to get towards where our goal is.
Hmm.
The divine feminine allows us to see what maybe needs to be shifted because again, we can't control life as we know. We
No,
can't.
not anymore. I mean, no, we thought we could, but that's totally
Well,
been.
that's exactly the point of why I believe that the divine feminine is rising because we are more or less now starting to see we can't control our lives as much as we think we can. We can't.
Yeah. Yes.
All we can control is how we respond to
Yeah.
life.
Yeah.
And actually, how much more power does that feel when
Yeah.
you can be responsible for how you shift and see your world?
Yeah, absolutely. Just I love the fact that, the men and the women are playing that dance that you're talking about, that they are balancing each other out. So many men can stay home and watch the kids sometimes, and the women are going to work. They're the breadwinner, and it's not a problem. Nobody, the man does not feel emasculated from it. Some might, but not all might. I'd say
Yeah.
a lot of them who's chosen the role are totally comfortable with it, so they've totally balanced their divine masculine and feminine because they get to do the best of both worlds there. And the women also have the support of the man, and yet they can also bring in their masculine, their divine masculine, but their divine feminine is also honored. So they're not squashed, they're not being pushed too much into a masculine role, and they're not pushed in the background too much anymore. It's like it's really stepping up to be equal. It's really wonderful to see.
Yep.
I,
I'm
I know the paychecks and all that aren't equal yet, but
right.
certain things are getting up there with a family unit. I think it starts in the family unit.
I
It
agree.
starts there, right?
Yes.
So,
Because
so
everybody cares so much about family. I mean, in
yeah,
our
I mean,
society, our family is what we start with, it's what we got, and it's how we ripple out into the world. And I agree. I was a nanny for several years, and I loved seeing the father figures that were at the preschools and that were taking care of the kids and that were in that more mother duty that I
yeah,
remember growing up. Because even in my generation, there weren't a lot of dad figures that were still stay at home. And so to see that dynamic and shift in my early 20s was like, wow, this feels really cool and awesome to notice that shift. And I agree that once that shift takes place in the families, again, these families enroll businesses, they enroll their bosses to really seeing it. And so that starts to ripple effect and grow out into the world, how we start shifting and changing the culture. And I agree, Janet, it definitely starts with the family.
yeah. And that's so beautiful to hear because we have so much more power than we know as a family unit.
Yes.
That's why things keep shifting in ways that almost like the family unit is trying to be broken apart sometimes right now. There's lots of crazy energies out there trying to shift things and different ways of looking at things. So just it's good for people to hear this. I mean, I don't think they look at it. I mean, we just think it's our family. All right, what's the family? It's something we're used to, it's something we have. But look at what it does. It's our foundation to our whole life, our society, our world. Because when you create from your family unit, when you start shifting what the family unit looks like or what they want, what they need now to function in the world, as to each of them to have that, counterbalancing each other, um it's changing everything. It's like the ripple effect that you're talking about. It's great. It's great to see. That's a really big aha. I mean, even though it sounds simple, but it's huge. It's huge to even see it because we don't always sit back and look at that.
Yes.
So you listen to your body, and how does your soul experience your body?
That's a lovely question. My soul experiences my body now in a profound and joyful way.
Hmm.
And again, it's taken me a long time to get there. But like I said, for the last 9 years, it's been uncovering a history of numbness, of disassociation to my
Hmm.
body. I wouldn't allow my soul to feel anything for the unsafety that might exist being in my body.
Yep.
Because what I really believe again about our soul is our souls know infinite potential, right? Because they've had past lives, they've been reincarnated. They're just this light source energy. I don't
Mhm.
want to say trapped in your body, but they're housed in your
They've
body.
chosen to come in.
They
They've
chose to come in exactly. Like they just know what's possible. They know what exists.
Yep.
And so they're constantly trying to tell you, "Hey, come on, let's go do that crazy wild thing." But our bodies, the primalness of our bodies, when you look at the amygdala, which is like again right from the back of the brainstem, which is what developed our bodies, that's the part of our brain that like lives in fear and flight
Mhm.
and freeze and all of that. And it's like, oh heck no, we're not going to jump out of an airplane. Oh heck no, we're not going to do that scary thing and speak on stages.
Bungee jump, yep, whatever.
Yeah, it's like, no, we're not doing that. And
Yeah.
so there's this fight response in the body between the infinite potential and the, oh my God, warning danger.
Mm,
And when we don't allow the body and our soul to have a good enough connection to feel, again, hey, the soul gets to have a moment with the body. Hey, you feel safe. I'm here. I love you. I'm going to protect you, even though we're going to do this wild and crazy thing, I'll make sure that you don't die, right? Because again, then what's going to happen to the soul? It's not going to have the body to live in. It's going to be
mhm,
like homeless. That's not going to feel good. So it's about having that connection. And for 9 years, as you can imagine, it's been that soothing my body from all of the trauma I experienced, from all of the memories and the pain, and letting her know, hey, I got you.
mhm,
It's
mhm.
okay.
Yep.
All of that, psychological body trauma that you've experienced, I'm here, I'm showing up for it. I'm allowing the light to come through. And through my deepest and darkest pain came the light. So
Yep.
I really believe, it's always darkest before the dawn, and
Hmm.
that you cannot have light without your shadow. And I knew at some point on my journey, even when it was so unbearable and it was so hard to just
Hmm.
keep diving deeper into like the murkiest of waters of like this cave of like and well of ache and pain,
Hmm.
I knew that there was going to be a crack open. I
Hmm.
knew that on the other side I was going to find joy. And boy, when I did, which was really only the last couple years, it was that great release I had been anticipating and waiting for.
Hmm.
And that's when I felt my purpose. That's when I felt like the passion get enlivened within me.
Hmm.
And
That's
so that's my journey and discovery with a lot of other women is it exists. You are allowed to feel your greatest abundance, your greatest truth, your greatest glory of that light within you. And it is the hero's journey to go on and
yeah,
discover.
yeah, it definitely is the hero's journey, and it's not an easy one as you're sharing, and but it's such an important one because
Mhm.
you don't get those breakthroughs. I mean, and people are going, oh, but I don't want to go back and look at that. Well, you know, you gotta go some you gotta do it. Otherwise, you can't clear the way a lot of times. I mean, you can not do it and are you still happy? I mean, now you're free. Now you're free from
Yeah.
all that, right? You get a freedom from it.
I
I know for me
It's a
too.
choice. No
Just
matter what, it's a choice in our lives. You can either
yeah,
not
exactly.
clear it and carry it for forever,
And
but I'm pretty sure you're tired of carrying it.
well,
I'm
that's
pretty
what this
sure
life
it's
is all
causing you
about.
pain.
Yeah,
Whether it's physically showing up in your body, or you're mentally disturbed by it, or you're seeing how it's impacting your life, your family, your friendships, your business, your finances, your relationships in general, like look to the evidence in your reality.
yeah, exactly. Exactly. It's your reality that really shows you what's going on in your life. Is it in the flow that you want? Are you genuinely happy, not just, looking good and all the bells and whistles are there,
Yeah.
but is it do you genuinely inside like who you are and what
Yes.
you've done in your life, and like you said, getting comfortable in your body. It's amazing. It's
Yeah.
amazing.
I honestly think for anybody listening, the greatest question you can ask yourself right now is if you were to die today,
Mm,
how would you feel about the legacy that you've left behind?
that's the best question. That's the best question,
Mhm.
because that's the truth. That's what got me to do what I'm doing. I'm
Mhm.
like, okay, I know I'm not fulfilled. And you too. I mean, you knew you weren't fulfilled and you got it young, which is so great. I mean, I left young and moved on my own, but it's been a constant journey, but you got all this awakening so well. I mean, it's great. It's so great that you got it even younger. And mine was steps, and it finally came. And it's amazing when you shift your life and you allow yourself to feel that pain and to just and it's only pain because it's really not even pain. It's a lesson. It's just learning. Really, we come in with the learning, and we can call it pain because we learn through pain in this dimension. But we have to feel the dark to get to the light, like you said, to see those cracks. It doesn't come any other way. It's just the way it works here with the duality. So I know, we had talked before in another session we were in. It was so wonderful. And we talked about the Me Too movement. And I thought that was kind of cool just to bring it up because I know women got so far in that. And then you brought up a really good point. So what did you see that women got and what was missing in that movement?
Yeah.
Mhm.
So I love movements in general because they're obviously here to break free of something and to create new momentum,
Yeah.
right? New change. And what I did see in the Me Too movement, which I thought was really powerful, were people were speaking up and using their voices. It wasn't just women. There were men too, but like there were, I would say a majority definitely were women that were speaking up and saying, oh my gosh, this trauma that occurred to my body, whether it was sexual violence or abuse, controlment of some sort, I too, me too, I've experienced this as well. And I think a lot of us that have had some sort of sexual trauma or exploitation in some ways,
Hmm.
we hide that pain.
Sure.
We are shamed
Well,
about
that.
the fact that something like that could happen to us. And
Mhm.
so it generally doesn't go reported. It generally doesn't get talked about. And so what the Me Too movement brought was this beautiful place of opening up our voices and saying, "Oh my gosh, this happened and it's not okay." And so it brought awareness to, like, we can't have this anymore.
Mhm.
What I believe was missing from the Me Too movement was the empowerment piece, not just by speaking your voice, but how do we go about creating a shift and a change? How do we go and take that movement and pull it forward into the masses? And, as I've reflected on this conversation we've had, they started the hashtag time is up.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
and that was again starting to see again, where can we start to really eradicate that
Mm.
this doesn't work. Again, the issue for me though with the Me Too movement has really been around, it still stirred up shame.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Me too, even though you were saying and using your voice about how, oh my gosh, I'm relinquishing myself from the shame on what occurred to me, it was then starting to turn into a retaliation of,
Mm.
let's go target the people that created this harm.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the thing is, that still also lives in shame.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that all the people that have done horrific things shouldn't have to find their way of like getting the repercussions or, the justice that is gets to be sought for the people that were in that victim role. However, there's still that stance of coming from that place of Me Too and seeing yourself as a victim versus seeing yourself from that place of, okay, how do I responsibly move this movement forward? And that to me was what was missing. I'm not saying that there weren't several, individuals that were trying to pioneer the Me Too movement in this powerful and intentional way of, let's support eradicating this from happening to future generations. But what I ended up seeing more in the media was people stirring up the shame pot
Mhm.
and
Oh, yeah.
creating
Oh, yeah.
more damage
Yeah. Yeah.
than what the I believe the intention must have been for,
Mm.
again, freeing the voices and for getting the message out there. And that was what was really unfortunate to me. And I'm really hoping that, as movements really come about on standing a firm line on wanting momentum and wanting change, really see that it comes from a place of seeking peace, not just justice, but seeking
Yes.
peace,
Yes.
seeking harmony.
Yes.
And that's where the light comes in, right? You got to be able to shift the story and say, okay, this has happened. There's nothing we can do to change it. So how has this happened for us so that we can be the change moving forward?
Exactly. Yeah, we talked about how that was one of my favorite sentences now. It's not happening to us, it's happening for us. So you step out of the victimhood of the two into the for, which brings you to look at the situation. What was I meant to learn? How did I get myself in this? Why did I choose this kind of situation to get me to look at myself in a different way?
Right.
And you have
And
to look at yourself when you choose those moments. You have to look at you and what are your values now? Because
right.
it
Because what
really,
happens to
yeah,
us is also living in the past.
yes,
What happens for us is seeing what's possible in your future
there
and
you go.
changing the story. That's where you have the power,
Yeah,
when you're living in the possibility of how you can shift this story. And so,
yeah.
one of the greatest things I know a lot of clients, even my partners, always remarked upon this is so many of the trauma stories I faced as a child, whether it's my mom who was a narcotic growing up, whether it was the sexual abuse I lived through as a child,
Mhm.
I could have turned out having, huge issues, not just with my body, but like sex and all this other stuff. And
Totally
yet
broken. You could have been totally broken.
I could have totally been broken. And I think that in some ways, part of my own numbingness was my brokenness.
Well,
But
to start.
what I ended up coming away from as I again did that internal reflection and living was actually how this all ended up being for me is because again, I want to guide women in reclaiming their power.
Mhm.
That story that happened, what you may think happened to you, is your way through and how it's happened for you so that you can be a stand, so that you can be the pioneer and the light for others to shine upon. I know all of this has preceded my past so that again, I can be the person that I am, pioneering and leading from a place of possibility, the
And
place of
authenticity.
possibility that says you don't have to suffer. That's your choice.
Yeah. Yeah. And you can suffer and feel the feelings, because I like also, you have to feel it to heal it.
Yes.
You have to do that, but yet then you've got to let go. You're done. You've gotten to a point where you could go forever and you
Well,
can.
that was again my journey, at 20, literally 20 years old was when my grandma left my life and she was my guiding source of light. And I
Mm,
realized, oh goodness, I don't have her presence.
mm,
That means it's up to me to be my own guiding light, my own presence. I
mm,
can't look to her anymore. She's up there now, and that's okay. She will guide me from up there,
mm.
but I get to be that for myself. And that was literally my journey of I don't have someone outside of me to look to anymore. So I get to be that for myself. And
Yeah.
there's a real huge empowerment and choice piece
Yeah.
when you realize there's nobody out here to save you. You get to save yourself.
That's exactly it. And that's where we are right now in society. We all get to individually save ourselves.
Mhm.
So when the divine feminine is opening the door to that, to show you who, what is possible, what's the potentials, as you're saying, which is so powerful. And that'll help us merge into the next movement of who we're meant to be
Mhm.
as beings, not just doings in the world. We're beings first.
Yes.
So what do you see as our feminine genius? What do you see as a feminine genius?
So I think there are a multitude of feminine geniuses. I believe that one of our biggest feminine geniuses is our intuition,
Mhm,
actually,
mhm,
compared to the masculine genius of logic, right?
mhm,
Because it's all like it's about being rational. It's about, feeling your physical strength and creating just that power and logic. But our intuition, I believe, is a feminine genius that we hold, and we've had it for eons,
mhm.
right? Our intuition has allowed us to know whether those berries were poisonous or not, if they were going to kill the tribe or not.
Yeah.
Our intuition in modern day is knowing when somebody's lying to us,
Mm,
is
mhm,
knowing if we want to go down this path or not. It's that hunch or it's that feeling deep in the pit of our stomachs or in our heart or somewhere in our bodies. And to me, intuition, I think a lot of people knock it. Like it's not, again, it's not logic, it's not proven. And to that, I say, look up heart math because
yeah.
intuition is a real thing. And when you look at how the body was developed, right, in utero, the first quote unquote brain that was developed was your gut. And
Mm,
then it was your heart. And then it was your brain. So the gut, which a lot of us say, my gut instinct, or I
yeah.
have a feeling in the pit of my gut, right? That is for most people where intuition does lie.
Mhm,
And
mhm,
again, just to really kind of tie in part of my own healing journey is the minute I started healing my gut was the minute my intuition expanded and grew. And
mm.
again, I noticed that a lot of people are going on their own internal gut healing journeys because of all the inflammation that
Mhm,
exists from all of the food that we're eating that isn't good for us, that
mhm.
is creating that inflammation and again suppressing our intuition, right? Because if our intuition is suppressed, then we're not connected to the divine feminine. We're not connected to the wisdom and messages that are trying to find a way through. It's like it's all being blocked and filtered.
Mhm. Yeah, that's why I think the organic world opened up, so that
Yes.
they realize that the foods are not doing what it was meant to do anymore. Conventional ways just aren't working for us. They're blocking. I mean, look at fluoride in our toothpaste. What's that doing? that's blocking the pineal. That's blocking that amazing gland that there's lots of reasons why they want people want it blocked. They take away your empowerment. You get to be controlled. So, we understand that more and more as you see the world around you. And yet it's all the power is within us, as you're saying, it's all within us. So, what do you see as the true sense or nature of the divine feminine? Like, how do you, what is she meant to do? Like, how do we, what's the true embodiment? I know that we talked about that. You gave a great example about the baby, how the baby comes through.
Oh, well, I feel like when we really look to infants and even young children, they're very much in the embodiment of their feminine because they're living moment to moment.
Hmm.
And that's really, to me, the embodiment of the feminine is really, again, one moment you could be paying attention to something, and the next minute you could just be distracted, right? By something else that catches your eye or catches your fancy.
Yeah.
Again, because the masculine energy is so focused, right?
Okay.
The feminine is just a living in the wonder and the beauty of
Okay.
life.
Yeah.
And so with infants, right, like they will catch your gaze because, of course, they do want to land focus on something that is going to give them love and a sense of being seen because all human beings want that. But, infants are, again, they're on that curious exploration of like, what does this do when I put it in my mouth? And what does this do, when I have it in my hand or when I look at it, when I taste it, when I touch it? And so they're all wrapped up in their senses,
Yeah.
which is
Yeah.
such another feminine genius
Yeah.
because as human beings, right, as you said, Janet, versus human doings, we are here to feel our way through life. We are here to feel
Yeah.
our experiences through sight, through sound, through taste, through touch, and, through taste. And yes, some of us don't have like maybe sight or hearing, but that allows all of your other senses to be super heightened,
Yeah.
to take in different feelings and sensations. I mean, you can look to many artists, right, that were blind and yet that their sense of sound and really hearing things was extra in tune and in tap. And that's what happens is you're always going to have this heightened sensual body. And so when we allow ourselves to feel what those senses do and to also emote what those senses teach us,
Hmm.
you're living in this vast like canvas of life.
Yeah.
And as children get older, and again, they go from moment to moment as well. I will never forget one time when I was a nanny and I walked into a grocery store with the 1-year-old boy I was nannying, and he just saw something in the corner of his eye and he wanted it. And he was like super happy to be in the grocery store, but he was like, oh, like that. I think it was like a lollipop or something. And I was like, no, no, we're not having that now because we needed to eat lunch. And he just burst into tears, just
Yeah.
like so upset. And I was like, oh goodness, whatever. Like, I'm just going to let him feel his experience right now. It will pass. And by the time we got to the next aisle, he found the next thing that lit him up that he wanted, which I think were like a jar of pickles. And
Okay.
I was like, sure. And I put it in the cart and he was super happy, but he wanted me to open it. And I'm like, no. And then he just bursted into tears again. And it was just like going from one thing to the next until finally, he felt anger because it was like the third time he'd been
Oh
told
my
no.
God.
And of course, by the end of the grocery store, he got a sticker and like that was it. He was just happy as a clam again.
Ah.
And it's fascinating to watch how children, again, whether they're infants, babies, but like they just are living in that vibrancy of life and allowing themselves to feel all the emotions. And then what starts to happen is at some point, because as adults, we hold back on our emotions, we hold back on our truth, we start kind of, again, silencing kids or shaming kids from feeling that range of emotion. It
Yeah.
could have been easy for me to shh him, right? It could have been easy for me to just give him what he wanted and to not even explore the
Mm.
wide range of his emotions. And it's just powerful and important to notice we all have feelings and
Mhm.
we all get to feel them.
Yeah, that's the best thing that's happening in the world, that I see so many parents opening the doors to allowing children to feel their true feelings, not shutting them down, not saying, not, they're bothered, go away, you can't, you're just a child. They're a human being. And
Yeah.
this is how they learn to love and give and receive both. So yeah, it's powerful. That's a great example. So how do you think we can heal the divine masculine to come into alignment with the feminine?
Mm.
In particular that you can think of? And I'm going to wrap up soon. So
Yeah, I feel like with the divine masculine, I think it's our responsibility to hold space for them,
hmm
to not step into their divine masculine first and foremost, but to really allow themselves to feel their feminine.
yeah,
Truly.
yeah.
I think that there's been so much conditioning and unhealthy masculine energy. I mean, it's why the patriarchy exists, in my opinion,
Mhm.
that when we can finally give grace to it's okay, you don't need to carry it, can they start to melt and unwind to then get rebuilt back up to stand in that divine masculine? Because here's the thing, you can't just switch and then be like, okay, I'm turning on my divine masculine. They're still holding all of that tension, they're still holding all of their own trauma that exists within the masculine. And I believe that there's a melting that gets to happen. And I do believe that as the feminine is rising, as we're all stepping more into our divine feminine, it's giving space for those that have either been holding rigid in their masculinity to just, again, take a moment to let it shed.
Mhm.
We lived in a culture at one time where we lived deeply in community. We lived deeply in connection. And basically, we lived in circle and tribe where it was behind you in a circle. I could see if a saber-toothed tiger was coming up to eat you alive, and you could see behind me. I
Mhm.
always had your back. And
Interesting.
that was the support, that was the community we lived in. And as we kind of grew our own little communities, we all started to create independence, which I think is a very masculine genius. And again, independence is fine until it becomes this isolated trauma response where you don't believe you can get support from others. And, again, another question to ask yourself is in your community of where you live, how well do you know your neighbors?
Mm.
That's your community. That's your neighbors is how you would keep yourself safe in the primal world.
That's so
And
true.
yet we're like, I'm safe in my own home if I have all my alarms set off and such. And it's like, can't tell you how many times you can still have alarms set off and people are still robbing houses next door and you don't even know about it.
I know. Oh, I know.
That's scary. How are we not protecting one another?
Oh,
Right? And so from this place and the again dropping this whole need to be super independent, because I actually really believe that being super independent, just like anywhere on some far extreme, is a trauma response.
mm,
So coming back into alignment and seeing where can we be in connection? Where can we be in community? We are all a human species here, just trying to make the best and most of life.
yeah, yeah. And
And when we can
community,
see
as
each
we know, since this whole chaos going on in the world, community has been sorely missed. And
yeah,
that's been a way to isolate us, which is not working very well because people don't like it. They like
yeah.
it for a while, but then they really want their community back. So,
I mean,
uh,
let's face it, right? We all got isolated. We all were in some many ways independent. It was a trauma response. What we were all dealing with was a trauma response.
exactly.
We had to go so far into the extreme to see, wow, this doesn't work. I crave community. I want to come back into connection.
Support.
Whether I'm an introvert or not. Like it's just
It's
it's
true. Yeah, yeah, so many people. Yeah, it's such a good, it's so many awarenesses we've gotten through this. So what did you get? What's the benefit for you that you got during this pandemic time? Anything particular pop up for you that was a big moment of awakening?
oh my goodness, so many. I think what one of the biggest things that I learned was how to be patient with myself and with others.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was really the biggest thing. It was just really going deep within myself and knowing that, you know, a healing journey or seeing things in the outside world that you want to change or you want to fix that you have no control over,
Mm-hmm.
it all comes back from patience.
That's so true because how much have we been waiting and waiting for certain things to shift? And that's exactly what I think. That's very good. That's very key that we have been learning patience. And so it's
Yeah.
powerful. Thank you. So any final message you have for the audience today?
I really hope that for all that are listening, that you can really understand that it is your choice to step into your divine feminine, into your power,
Mhm.
into finding your pleasure. And by pleasure, I mean feeling the greatest joy and abundance that is rightfully yours. And to know that, again, it's as simple as choosing this journey, choosing this path.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. That's wonderful. And I know you have a special gift. So would you like to tell people about it?
Sure. So I love, love, love teaching women how
Mm,
to cultivate pleasure in their lives and their bodies specifically, because it starts with the body. It's about
mm,
finding that safety with the body, as I talked about earlier. And so I have a free training called Pleasure is Your Birthright that really walks you through opening up each of your senses to
mhm,
really explore, again, how to find not only safety with your body, but really how to start feeling into those pleasurable senses that we all have, and to really have that exploration of like self care time to just really be within
mhm,
yourself.
mhm.
And so it's a training. You also get a playlist because, again, sound is one of our senses that we have. And so it's really about discovering into it. And I guide you through different activities that you can take on and try on. And I find it to be really fun. And I've had clients really enjoy being walked through something that gives them time to slow down.
Wow, it's powerful. And I apologize for that phone call in there. I forgot to pull my phone out. So
All good.
we've been so good. And I said, ah, you forgot to shut it off. So, well, that is powerful what you just shared. So I hope that you all take advantage of it. And I'm going to thank the audience for their listening and to, hoping that you can give us some feedback. We love your comments and we'd love to hear what you got from this because Megumi, she shares so much from the heart, so much authenticity, and it's so special. And we love to hear what you have to say. And I'll share it with Megumi. You can send it to ownyourdivinelight@gmail.com. And all this information is at the bottom of this email that you get every day. And Megumi, I want to thank you so much for owning your divine feminine light. And you're the radiant nurturer of joy. I mean, you bring so much joy into the world when you speak of the way you do because people it's hard to express what divine feminine is and you just do it so beautifully and effortlessly because you've embodied it. And so that's why you just ooze that role. And you are the role model for embodying divine natural feminine. And this is what we need to see. Women need to see this and to understand that it doesn't matter what age you are, you can still do it. So don't think you can't. And you are showing us how we're all meant to be through your own grace and your own self-love, which is so beautiful. So thank
Absolutely.
you so much. And I am Isla Serena Miller, and I will see you on the next episode.